This is a PowerPoint about multiplication, and we're going to look at short and long multiplication. So remember that when you multiply a number, what you're really doing is adding it lots of times. So a sum like 3 add 3 add 3 add 3 add 3, which equals 15. To turn this into a multiplication sum, you need to use the number you're adding and how many times you do this. So with 3 add 3 add 3 add 3 add 3, we're adding 3 5 times. So 3 is the number that we're using, we're adding it 5 times. So you can write that as 3 times 5, which equals 15. Now I'm going to show you two ways of working out multiplication sums. The first one is the grid method. So if you take a sum like 34 times 2, what you need to do first is split the longer numbers into units, tens, hundreds, etc. So 34 is made up of 3 tens, which equals 30, and 4 units, which is 4. So you draw your grid and you put those numbers into your grid. So the 30 goes there, the 4 goes there, and the 2 goes there. And then you multiply each number. So 30 times 2 is 60, put that in the box. 4 times 2 is 8, you put that there. Then you have to add your answers together. So 60 add 8 equals 68. Let's look at doing longer numbers with the grid method. So let's look at the sum 523 times 5. So again, you split your longer number into units, tens, hundreds, etc. So 523 is made up of 5 hundreds, which equals 500, 2 tens, which equals 20, and 3 units, which equals 3. So draw your grid. You have to make it a bit bigger than the one on the previous slide because we're working with a bigger number. And you put your numbers in like this. So 500 goes there, 20 goes there, and 3 goes there. And then your 5 goes at the top. So then you multiply each number. So 500 times 5 is 2,500. 20 times 5 is 100. And 3 times 5 is 15. Then add all of your answers together. And the answer is 2,615. Remember that if you're working with a number with zeros, like in our 500 times 5 sum, what you can do is just look at the two numbers you've got, the 5 and the 5, multiply those first, so that's 25, and then add on however many zeros you've got in the numbers. So 500 has 2 zeros, so what we did with our answer there, 25, is add those 2 zeros. You need to remember to do that, otherwise your sum will be wrong. So let's look at an even longer number now, 1,637 times 4. So 1,637 is made up of 1,000, which equals 1,000, 600s, which equals 600, 3 tens, which equals 30, and 7 units, which is 7. So draw your grid and then put that number into the grid. So for 1,637, your 1,000 goes there, 600 goes there, your 30 goes there, and your 7 goes there, and then your 4 goes at the top. Then you have to multiply each number. So 1,000 times 4 is 4,000. 600 times 4 is 2,400. Remember again, you can just look at the numbers at the front. The 6 times 4, which is 24, and then add on the 2 zeros from 600. 30 times 4 is 120, and then 7 times 4 is 28. And then you add all those numbers together. And it gives you an answer of 6,548. So we're going to have a quick look at long multiplication using the grid method. So long multiplication is when both of your numbers are double digits or more. So we use exactly the same process. In this case, we've got 56 times 24, but remember that you have to split both numbers into units, tens, hundreds, etc. So 56 is 5 tens, which equals 50, and 6 units, which equals 6. 24 is 2 tens, which equals 20, and 4 units, which equals 4. So you draw a 3 by 3 grid in this case, and you put your numbers in like this. So 56, the 50 goes there, and the 6 goes there, and then your 24, the 20 goes there, and the 4 goes there. And then you multiply those numbers together. So 50 times 20 is 1,000, because we can look at the 5 and the 2. We can say 5 times 2 is 10, but then we've got a 0 from the 50 to add on and a 0 from the 20 to add on. So that's why the answer is 1,000. 6 times 20 is 120. Then 50 times 4 is 200, and 6 times 4 is 24. And then, as normal, we add those numbers together. What you get in this case is an answer of 1,344. Now, there are problems with the grid method. One problem is that as the numbers you multiply get bigger, you end up with a lot of numbers to add up at the end. Also, if both numbers are double digits or more, it's easy to make mistakes when you're multiplying the numbers in the grid. The column method gets rid of both of these problems. So that's what we're going to have a look at now. So the column method. Let's look at the sum 74 times 8. We're going to set this out in columns, and for this we need a hundreds column, a tens column, and a units column. And we set our sum out like this. The 74 goes there, with the 7 in the tens column, and the 4 in the units column, and then the 8 goes in the units column. So remember to put your sign in, so you remember what sort of sum you're doing, and also a line underneath your sum, so that it separates out the sum and the answer. And then what you do is multiply 8 by each number on the top. So first of all, we look at 8 times 4, and that's 32. So our 2 goes in the units column, and then we carry the 3 to the tens column. And we always put a little plus sign in front of that 3 to remind ourselves that we're going to add it to the next answer. Then we do 7 times 8, and that's 56. But we have to remember to add on that 3 that we carried. So 56 add 3 equals 59. So the 9 goes in the tens column, and then because there's no other sum to do, we just put the 5 in the hundreds column. So the answer is 592. Let's look at a 3-digit number with that method. 436 times 7. So set out your columns. For this one we need a thousands column as well as a hundreds, tens and units. And write the sum out like we did before. So remember to put your sign in so you know what sort of sum you're doing, and also the line underneath the sum so it separates out your answer. And then again you just multiply each number on the top by 7. So 6 times 7 is 42. So put your 2 in the units column and then carry your 4 to the tens column. Again, if you put add 4 down at the bottom, it reminds you what to do with it. 3 times 7 is 21. Add 4 is 25. So we put the 5 in the tens column and we carry the 2 into the hundreds column. Then we do 4 times 7, which is 28. Add 2, and that gives us 30. So we put the 0 in the hundreds column, and then because there's no other sum to do, we just put the 3 in the thousands column. So that gives us an answer of 3052. Let's look at one more longer number, 2643 times 5. Let's set it out again. So our columns this time, we need a 10,000s column at the front, because that's what our answer is going to run into. And you set the sum out just like you did before. So again, let's multiply every number on the top by 5. So 6 times 5 is 30. Put your 0 in the units column and carry your 3. 3 times 5 is 15. Add 3 is 18. So put your 8 in the tens column and carry the 1. 4 times 5 is 20. Add 1 is 21. So put your 1 in the hundreds column, carry the 2. And then 2 times 5 is 10. Add 2 is 12. So you put the 2 in the thousands column, and then because there's no other sum to do, you put the 1 in the 10,000s column. So your answer for that is 12,180. Let's look at long multiplication using the column method. So long multiplication is when both of your numbers are double digits or more. In this one, we've got 36 times 27. So we're going to set out our columns. We need a hundreds, tens, and units column. And we write the sum out like this, making sure that the numbers are in the correct column. So what we do now is multiply every number on the bottom by every number on the top. So we start at the right hand side and we do 7 times 6, that's 42. So we put the 2 in the units column and carry the 4 into the tens column. And then 7 times 3, that's 21. Add 4 is 25. So we put the 5 in the tens column and the 2 in the hundreds column. And then we were done with the 7. So we cross that out to remind ourselves that we've done with that one. And we put in what's called a placeholder. That's a 0. And all that does is remind us that we're now working with the tens column. And it'll make sure that all our numbers are in the right place. So now we multiply each number on the top by 2. So 2 times 6 is 12. You put the 2 in the tens column and carry the 1. 2 times 3 equals 6. Add 1 equals 7. And you put the 7 in the hundreds column. There's nothing to carry forward and there's no other sums to do. So the last stage of this sort of sum is that you add together those two numbers. So if we work from the right again, what we get is 2 add 0, that's 2. 5 add 2 is 7. And 2 and 7 is 9. So the answer to that sum is 972. Let's look at 3-digit numbers. So we set out our columns, just like we did before, and again we need a 10,000s column for this one. So make sure that you write your sum out and put your numbers in the correct columns. So 213 goes there, 135 goes there. And again, what we do, we work from the right and we multiply every number on the bottom by every number on the top. So first of all, we do 5 times 3, that's 15. So we put 5 there and carry the 1. Then we've got 5 times 1, that's 5. We have to remember to add the 1 that we carried, so that gives us 6. And then we do 5 times 2, that's 10. There was nothing to carry, so we put the 0 in the hundreds column, and then the 1 goes in the thousands column. And then we've done with that 5 now. We've multiplied it by every number on the top, so we cross it out, and we put in a placeholder in the units column. And then we're going to multiply the 3 on the bottom by every number on the top. So 3 times 3 is 9. That goes in the tens column. There's nothing to carry. 3 times 1 is 3. That goes in the hundreds column. And again, there's nothing to carry. And 3 times 2 is 6. And that goes in the thousands column. And there's nothing to carry. And now, because we're done with that 3, we put a cross through it. So now when we move on to the next line, we have to put in 2 placeholders because we're done with the units column. So we put in a 0 there. but now we've also done with the tens column, so we put a 0 in there as well. So we're left with the 1 on the bottom, and we're going to multiply that by every number on the top. So 1 times 3 is 3, that goes in the hundreds column. 1 times 1 is 1, that goes in the thousands column. And 1 times 2 is 2, and that goes in the 10,000s column. So the last thing we need to do for this sum is add those answers together. So 5 add 0 add 0 is 5. 6 add 9 add 0 is 15. So we put the 5 there and then carry the 1. 3 add 3 add 1 is 7. 1 add 6 add 1 is 8. And then 2 add nothing else is 2. So our answer to that sum is 28,755. The column method, and this is why I continue to teach it. With the column method, you only ever multiply single-digit numbers, so it's useful when you start working with bigger numbers. As we saw with the grid method, we ended up having to multiply numbers like 50 and 20, and it gets confusing if you're working with very big numbers about the amount of zeros you have to deal with. With the column method, you're just multiplying single-digit numbers. The highest sum you'll ever have to do is 9 times 9. The trickiest things to remember are carrying numbers to the correct column and adding zeros in your long multiplication. But as long as you get into the habit and remember to do those things, you'll find it quite easy. And there is a number square at the end of the video to help you with those sums.